Welcome to another episode of Driving to the Res with your favorite hosts, Larry
and Inelia.
Super.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable about our intro now.
I felt that intro was absolutely fabulous.
Kind of like calmed into it.
Yes, almost like we'd practiced it before.
Well, we practiced a lot of not ways to do it.
Yeah, I think we've practiced it like over 100 times now. We went through our 100th episode some time ago. Yeah.
100 weeks?
Yeah.
That's 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow. That's saying something, huh?
I know.
How often can you say I did something for 2 years every week? And I didn't miss a week.
We didn't.
I don't think we did. Even our sick week, we still managed somehow, right?
I know.
Because we had
something else recorded
for it, yeah. We were thinking ahead.
I know. Somebody was. Maybe not us.
We don't call it our sick week. What do we call it?
A recuperation week.
Recuperation?
Remedy?
No.
A health response.
A health
detoxification?
A health flush.
Yes, a health flush.
A flush or detox.
Yes.
A detox experience.
I was thinking about that, actually, because I was thinking about that and what to call it and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I know that, for example, one of the things that I remember growing up was that anytime any of my siblings or I got sick, this was what we call it at the time, we had to go to bed and we had a fever and all that type of stuff. And then we would get up and we needed new clothes because we'd grown.
Yeah, because you grow at night. You grow when you're sleeping good.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yep.
I wondered. I thought it was maybe that the body was transforming from one shape to another, had to get rid of all the old stuff, I don't know.
That's got the possibility, or just by being flat, you can like squish out bigger. And when you're standing up, it's like squashed down, so it gets short. So it's like, it's built up, you lay down, it goes,
yeah.
Maybe.
Anyways, today we're going to talk about...
What we're talking about.
Oh, I thought those other topics that you are thinking about were more interesting.
Well, yeah, they are. But I also think this is somewhat interesting. Come up with a new word besides sick. I'm sick this week. Sick is a word that means,
a victimish kind of?
Victimish, but more like it's attached to all of the cure stuff.
Negative
I'm
stuff
sick,
too.
so I need cured. And if instead we were to consider it, I'm flushing, detoxing, my body is eliminating toxins. What might we think about you do with it? You might figure out how you support it while it flushes. So maybe speed up the flush, slow down the flush, maybe support the fact that you're flushing, and the better things to do while you're flushing are sleeping, resting, drinking water,
liquids,
supporting your body through the process. Soup, sure. Maybe not ingesting more toxin.
Yes, that would be a good idea.
Some things like that. And normally when you're sick, you think about a cure, how to stop the flushing.
Yes.
How do I take an aspirin to stop the pain? I take a Theraflu to stop the discomfort. It's so uncomfortable I can't handle it no more, and make it stop. And this to stop the fever, and this to stop me from throwing up, and this to stop me from having the runs or whatever.
And then you keep all the toxins inside your body, right?
Right. So you don't finish your flush, but also, be aware of
dehydration.
Dehydration
can kill you.
Definitely can. That's, I think, what most people do end up exiting from.
Yeah, but dehydration.
Yeah.
Or sometimes not being able to breathe. I had some of those. I died of pneumonia when I was 7.
It has to do with inflammation, remember? Inflammation also.
The Machi saved my life. And one of the weird things that I remember from her, she brought me back into my body, and then she gave us some medicine. And the interesting thing about that medicine that I thought was very interesting was that I had to drink boiled milk, boiled with garlic and blueberries.
Really?
Yeah. And it was absolutely gross, and it would cause my lungs to fill up again every time, and that's what it was for. She said you need to get the lungs to flush, and so you don't try to suppress the coughing and the, getting off all the stuff. Yeah. So by making more of it, then the bad stuff that was stuck there would come out, because the stuff that the milk would generate was new.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you change the word, you change the thought, you change what you're doing.
Yeah, and she saved my life. But of course, she arrived at my grandma didn't want any Indians coming to help, right? So she resisted it until I actually died. And then she's like, my grand-uncle said, you've nothing to lose. She's already gone, so let's just bring her. And that's why they brought her.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You already got to know.
Already got to know. Why don't you bless us? And then she's okay, but it's ridiculous and pathetic and blah, blah. And then when she brought me back, she was like totally in shock. My grandma was in total shock.
Yeah.
And she did the medicine. I still remember it to this day because it's absolutely gross.
It's the worst, huh?
And I had to drink. She would force me to drink it every few hours, night and day.
Well, it kind of feels to me like the flushing of toxins process is one of those uncomfortable processes that once you start it, it's kind of hard to stop it until you're done. And by stopping it, it's very, very not the right thing to do. It's like if you're having your baby, once you start having your baby, halfway through it, you can't say, stop. I don't want to do it no more, I'm done.
Put him back.
You're pretty much committed. You're
pretty much committed, yeah.
And so stopping it is going to create disaster.
Yeah.
And that's basically what stopping your body from flushing toxins creates. It just kicks that disaster down the line a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, but when I was 7, I died of it, and also I lost half of one of my lungs.
Right, but that was a lot of toxins.
But I don't know, a lot of toxins, yeah.
You had how many shots?
At
trillion,
7?
Bunches of shots.
Probably, yeah. But I was also emotionally...
You were in a completely dysfunctional emotional state.
Yeah. Really, really bad.
Really bad. And those things are just as important.
Yeah, yeah. And the treatment wasn't right. I don't know what they were giving me, but it wasn't good. Probably aspirin or something.
Yeah, it was probably things to stop it. So your body's fighting the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, it is possible to take something that stops your flush.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what medicine, with a quote unquote, is supposed to do, is stop your symptoms. But it's just looking at it the wrong way.
I think so, but you really have to manage it really, really well.
Yeah.
When we got the flushing a few weeks ago that we're talking about right now, I know that each of us got what we could handle, but also it was like one of those things that I could feel when we were getting too dehydrated, and it was like, no, we need to ingest more water, right? We need to ingest more water. And I mean, if it got worse, I know there's methods, right? You can go to the doctors and they have to do what you tell them, not what they think they should do. They always ask you for permission and you have to sign for any treatment. And I thought, well, if this gets worse, I'm going to go to the hospital and get, what's it called? IV fluids, right? To get hydrated. And then you told us about your experience of when you had a really, really bad flush once, like
a really extreme flush. How about we call it an extreme flushing?
Extreme.
Yeah, I had an extreme flushing, and I mean, it wasn't super extreme. It was just, it was flushing.
But you were
and instead of resting,
you worked.
I worked, and I worked hard. We were fishing, and I took drugs to suppress the symptoms so that I could continue to work. And I didn't hydrate at all or eat. And
because you were sick.
Because I was sick. So, well, I wasn't sick. I was flushing.
You were flushing, sorry. It's so easy to fall back to the old vocabulary.
Right. But in the middle of a flushing, I went to work anyway, and I suppressed the flushing, and I didn't hydrate, and I didn't eat. I did everything opposite of what you probably should do.
Right.
And after 2 days of doing the opposite of what you should do, including not getting any rest, I was done. I was like, I can't get up to move the boat. I can't get out of bed. Somebody else had to drive the boat home, and then I went to the clinic.
Did they take you in an ambulance?
No, because I'm a fisherman, for crying out loud. Get in the truck.
How dead you could.
We're going to get in the truck and drive to the clinic. We don't call that a little ambulance. Give me a break. And then when I got drug into the clinic, they saw me and they just immediately put me on IV. And then 2 bags of IV, 3 bags of IV, I had to go pee. Yeah. And I was fixed.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Home, I think a lot of those symptoms and this discomfort are from dehydration.
I do too.
Yeah. I remember when my babies were small. I remember one particular instance when Daniela, she was 2, and she had the worst fever, and she was puking, and she was like high fever, and I was desperate, and I called the doctor, and it was a time of the world when doctors came to your house. He arrived to my house, and he took a look at her, and he says, he looked at me and he said, first baby? And I said, yeah. I think she was actually, it wasn't Ireland then, it was England. And I said, yeah. And he said, he looked at me and it was England. He said, is she still like this in 3 days? Call me. I said, 3 days? He says, yeah, 3 days. And what do I do now? You give her plenty of liquids. If she vomits them, just let her sip the liquids. Pinch her skin. If it stays up, you call me. Or if it's just like this in 3 days, you call me. And you're just going to leave? What about medicine? Nope, don't give her anything. This, she needs to burn it out. And he left. And I was like, cursing.
I need some antibiotics. And I need some...
No.
Well,
I
know what you're saying.
I knew then antibiotics were really, really bad. I didn't want any of that. But I was still shocked that he would just leave me with my 2-year-old in a high fever and call me in 3 days, right? And I stayed by her, and I would pinch her hand, continuously pinch her hands to make sure the skin was bouncing back.
Check mine.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Can't even pinch it. You're totally hydrated. But remember when you were flushing?
Yeah, it was like
sticking up.
It was sticking up, and it stayed up. I was like, oh, geez, I really need to get some water, honey. I can't believe how dehydrated I am.
Anyways, she got better in a day and a half or 2 days, so I never got to call him.
Your skin's good too. You're completely hydrated, honey.
I never had to call him back.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. I thought, wow, that's incredible, right? Mm-hmm. It's amazing. So nowadays, of course, it's different, right? So
nowadays we kind of are trained to believe that
for babies, aspirin for babies, all sorts of baby stuff.
Anything, the sign of anything, give them some of this.
Yeah.
We're kind of trained to believe any form of discomfort needs to be eliminated immediately. Yeah. And, honestly, it's not comfortable to flush toxins.
It isn't, no.
So a pound of prevention or an ounce of prevention and a pound of cure. Remember hearing that before? Yeah. So if you ingest or you're exposed to less toxins, then you probably don't have to flush quite so hard, huh?
Right.
So slamming a Twinkie is not that great of an idea because you're going to be paying later.
And just to make sure for anybody out there, the robots and think this is not medical advice, we would never do that. Okay? You continue doing what your doctor tells you. And everybody who's listening to us will have to be sovereign over their own opinions around health and what to do when they're sick or their children are sick. I'm just giving information about what we experienced and what my baby's doctor said when he came to visit when she was 2, and she's like 30 something right now. I'm not going to give her age. So any bots that think that we're giving medical advice are wrong, we would never do that.
But
because people are sovereign.
I would say though, pick your doctor wisely.
Yes. Absolutely, yeah. Pick your doctor wisely.
Don't just pick whatever doctor they give you.
Right. And question and look and see how things feel and
get multiple
make
opinions.
Sure that it doesn't matter. I mean, I know that it's not medical advice, but we know that we've been taught in school that if you stop drinking water, you're going to die within 3 days. Right?
I remember reading some stuff about my son. He's, college football player, and they have a tendency to get injured. Mm-hmm. And when they're injured, they have protocols around how to treat their injuries,
Yeah.
And I remember reading about the inflammation of their joints or whatever that got injured. They get inflamed, and so they can have this certain process of therapies which reduces inflammation. Mm-hmm. And there's the other one that said, but we checked outcomes and inflammation was a good thing because first of all, the pain meant you didn't more injure it. Mm-hmm. The inflammation was pulling away the dead tissues and injured stuff. And then if they allowed it to go through its natural process, then your outcome was better and quicker.
Remember that documentary that showed there was an old lady who was allergic to bees, and I don't know how it happened, and she had arthritis in her entire body. She was very disabled with arthritis. I don't know how it happened, and I don't know if she was in a picnic or with her family, whatever. She managed to get herself walked into a beehive, and there was somebody filming there, and they filmed her covered from head to toe with bees, and she was trying to walk away, trying to run away, and then she collapses on the floor, and they take her to hospital. They give her one of those, what are those called? EpiPen things?
EpiPens, yeah. Epinephrines or something.
Yeah, and then when she recovered after a few days in hospital, she came out of the hospital without arthritis.
You want to know something interesting? No, I don't remember that, but I do remember just last week or 2 weeks ago, I was listening to Dr. Cowan talking turkey with Dr. Cowan kind of thing.
Yeah.
He does that so that I think the YouTube guys don't care.
Yeah.
Because they're just talking turkey.
Yeah, they're talking turkey.
Yeah.
We're going to call it...
They're gobble
We're
gobbling.
going to call this one Driving to the Race, Talking Turkey.
Talking turkey on the res.
Yeah, talking turkey on the res.
Somebody asked about their arthritis, and he said, strangely enough, one of the cures for arthritis in the old books is a bee sting, because the bee sting causes inflammation, and the inflammation pulls out the things in your joints that were creating the pain, which were something like proteins or something that got stuck in there.
Nice.
It created inflammation to flush out the stuff, and then after the bee stings de-swells, de-inflames, or inflammation is gone, your arthritis is gone too.
Wow. It reminds me of the cure that Machi gave me. Mm-hmm. It kind of is the same. The milk produces mucus, like inflammation, right? It's like a toxin, maybe? I don't know what it is, but it causes...
No,
I don't know why
like
it causes
honey.
mucus, but it does.
Yeah.
And then the garlic, I don't know why she put garlic in there. Garlic has that antibacterial thing, right? So if there is any nasty bacteria stuck with your lungs because you can't flush them, it's going to deal with that, I'm thinking, maybe?
I don't think so. No. I think you went sideways on that one, honey.
Okay. What about the blueberries? So many blueberries in it. For vitamin C, probably, huh?
Is that oxidants? I believe blueberries has something in that's an antioxidant.
Well, I remember the cure, man, and it cured me.
Blueberries, garlic, and milk.
Yeah, boiled.
Boiled together.
It was so gross. Oh my God, it was so gross.
Well, there's a synergy between all three of those that's not commonly encountered.
But
because
I
nobody
can tell
uses
you, every time I drank the glass that I had to drink, I would cough so much.
Yeah.
And it was effective coughing. It wasn't that nasty, like breathless, ineffective cough. It wasn't that one. It was the other one.
Yeah, the
really
phlegm.
effective.
Well, the milk makes phlegm. The phlegm is in your lungs. That's something for you to cough up. So it grabs stuff with it.
Okay, so it's not.
So your lungs were like dried, yeah. And then the blueberry and the garlic, boiled together in milk.
It's so gross.
Probably, it's like it might have. We can only speculate because we don't know what boiled garlic and blueberries and milk actually creates.
We can
synergistically.
Speculate, yeah.
We do know that tomatoes and olive oil cooked together makes a delicious thing. That's good for you in spaghetti. Mm-hmm. But blueberries and garlic and milk.
Ooh, I like to talk about our spaghetti today. Yes. It's related.
Okay,
it's actually related.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
Okay. So, last night...
Yes, last night.
Oh, I should say, today at lunchtime we have our Sunday dinner.
Yeah.
I was absolutely starving, like I hadn't eaten in days.
Me too.
Even though we had like some snacks for lunch, for breakfast, right? I had a sandwich for breakfast. I was still starving. I haven't had that much hungry for a long time because we eat really well every day, you make sure. Anyways, last night when we were going to bed, I had the information and knowledge that there was going to be this very specific group of aliens who were going to take you for a visit, and many other individuals in the area for a visit.
Right. I remember you told me that. I was like, ooh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember I had a few questions about that, but can I ask my questions now?
Sure.
The first question was, if I stay awake, will they not be able to bring me up for a visit?
You might try to stay awake, but you will need to get your body to go to sleep in order to do the transport without panic.
So it's a little bit like Santa Claus. You can try and stay awake as long as you want, but eventually you're going to pass out.
Yes.
And then it'll happen.
Yes, it'll happen, yeah.
Right. And the other question that I didn't ask, but I thought about seriously, was if I'm not wearing any clothes in bed, will I be naked on the ship?
Yes, it's an actual physical visit.
Yeah. So
I'm really glad you put your skivvies on.
Yes. That was one of the main reasons I made sure to wear clean skivvies and take a shower in the whole 9 yards. Okay.
And I can tell you other people that live in the area do not put on skivvies to go to sleep. And that's a image I will never be able to get rid of. Because what happened is I never go, I can't say never, but I don't go there physically, usually to these visits. And last night I kind of was invited and I said yes, so I'll go with them. So I did. I went with everybody. And we had a pretty fabulous experience. And one of the experiences, like, time there is kind of different. So it felt like we were there for many, like 20 hours or something.
I know, it felt like a long visit.
And often, and a lot of the other people went for naps, right? Because it's a very, very high frequency energy of remembrance, and it's beautiful. And it's almost like what was the hobby called? A recharging of the batteries.
Yeah.
And so part of that is just laying there sleeping, right? Resting. But yeah, you don't get any other type of food. And you didn't actually go for a nap, which I think normally you do, take a nap there.
Probably, yeah.
And you didn't. And I remember it was 8 o'clock this morning, our alarm was going off, and you were snoring like it was 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. And anyways, yeah, so we were really hungry today. Very hungry today.
I scarfed a giant plate.
I know.
Giant plate.
We
Scarfed it all the way to
emptied
the last bite and then took some more noodles.
Yeah, wow. No, I didn't take any more, but Jesus.
And then I had dessert
So
cake.
the spaghetti. It was spaghetti. Oh my gosh. I remember waking up thinking, I want spaghetti today, and that's exactly what you offered. It was awesome.
Excellent. Yeah, if you're curious about any of this in our second hour, which you can get on Subscribe Store or with Walk With Me Now.
Yes.
We go into a regression experience. First show, second show, third show, somewhere around there. I think there's even a recording of an entire actual regression
to that ship.
To that ship with those beings and myself.
Mm-hmm.
And Inelia didn't go that time.
No.
But this time was last night. And last night she did go. So of course I didn't take a nap because I had to show her around the ship.
Yes.
Huh. And what do you think about my ship? Well,
I thought it was our ship.
Our ship.
Yeah. Not mine, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not physically my ship, but it's kind of like, what do you think about my ship, like my boat?
Right.
Because I'm one of the members of the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you think about my ship?
It was really fascinating, very interesting. I suspect, actually, that might tie up with last week's as well, that it might be the moon. But I'm not 100% sure. I haven't truthed it completely, because it's so new. But it felt like it was massive, and it was separated into pods, like spaces. Mm-hmm. And each pod space had people that are from that species working with people who are born here on Earth. And there's groups, like 20, 30 people maybe per group, maybe 40. I don't know. I didn't look at many groups. Mm-hmm. And there's other places as well. And some of our listeners might recognize this or feel into it like they recognize it. And there were some really, really large rooms where there were like 100 to 100, maybe even up to 500, even 1,000 people in one of these rooms. And one of the interesting aspects of it is that it had different like levels of sitting areas. So you could be like really high up near the roof or, the ceiling or right near the floor. And it's like all over, and people were just sitting around laughing and chatting. And it was like a thing about they were getting instructions, and I don't know if it's instruction in the learning type dynamic of the word instruction, or whether they were getting instructions on what or they're making decisions about what they're gonna be doing next. There was also areas where little children, like 6-year-olds, were in a kind of classroom setting, not all looking at one wall, but I guess some of them would interpret it that way if that's what the schooling they go to on Earth would be. But it was more to do with like this really gentle energy, and the beings that were showing them stuff and teaching them things, they looked very human. They had hair in their head and maybe wigs, but they looked very human, so that the kids were happy. The kids were happy and thought it was normal. And then the one that I found very funny was one of the rooms, they had teenagers in it. What I found funny is that they were all talking with their voices. In the other rooms, a lot of the stuff was experiential telepathy. But in the teenager groups, they were talking with their voice. And it's almost like a rejection of the experiential telepathy.
Yeah, it's almost like a rebellious teenagers.
Yeah.
That's quite funny.
Not all of them, but a
few
good
asserting their
majority,
individuality.
Actually. Yeah, a good majority of them, actually. And the other ones mostly were the groups of adults, and those were there. Apart from the large groups where there'd be adults to receive instruction or information, or even learning stuff, the smaller groups, the 30 to 50 people, 20 people, they felt more like they were there to get those batteries recharged and whatever technology tuned in, and I think that the drive, because of what I've seen in this group and the other individuals who have been there, it feels like the drive right now during the split is for everybody who is part of that collective to start being able to connect directly to that frequency that is the natural state of the people who go there not every night, because it's very rare that they go out actually, and start remembering it. And like you said, it's like the technology that you feel you have in your bodies to be able to remind you or connect with a higher frequency through the fog, which the fog being the black dark paradigm and all the chicken scratches, right?
Yeah, the fog that we exist on the planet, that's co-created by all the others on the planet that are light dark paradigm co-creators, right?
Yeah.
They're making the fog.
Yeah.
The fog is everything, everywhere. It's the entire co-creation is fog. And to create a new paradigm, you have to create something that's not the fog. But when you're in the fog, all you can see is fog.
Yeah.
So you literally almost can't create the new, because even trying to do that, you incorporate the old paradigm process, and that just creates more of the old paradigm, maybe with a little bit of new paradigm sauce, but it's still the old paradigm. So you're almost literally stuck without some way of having remember those solar tubes that goes into this roof and it brings sunshine in and it makes light? You almost need some way of channeling in a pure state, or channeling into a pure state of what that light reality is, just to be able to embody it enough, to project it just enough, so that's you even got the taste of it.
Yeah.
So having visits is re-exposure, realignment, oh yeah, that's this, it's this, it's this, it's this. And then remember, and then try and bring that back with you. And we've been trying so many ways to bring it back. Oh my God. Remember one of our friends, we did the hair backwards thing, right?
Yes.
She said she had been doing and noticing these things in her life for a long time. It's how did that happen? But she never made the connection, right?
She actually, the word she used is where was I last night?
Where was I last night?
Where did I go last night?
Yeah.
Where have I been? Or something like that. I can't remember the exact words, but it was something like that. And I think she's one of the instigators, one of the people who are very creative in bringing that knowledge that I was somewhere.
Yep.
That wasn't my bed last
Yes,
night.
yes. Yeah.
And you did something funny last night. You went to bed without skivvies.
Uh-huh.
And then at 1 o'clock or something, you got up to put skivvies on because you knew they were coming.
Yes, I knew they were coming, and I didn't want to come up. I didn't want to be showing you around the ship naked, you know. I mean, I guess it's a ship full of nudists in a sense, but
No, everybody was neat now.
I was wondering why you went to bed with all of your clothes on. Like, honey, why are you dressed in bed?
Well, I didn't have my day clothes on. I had PJs on.
Yeah,
Shirt
but
and
you know, you don't always wear a full load
no.
of top and bottom and underwear and the whole nine yards. Like,
yeah, I don't like wearing any PJs actually. But
yeah, I couldn't figure it out, but I didn't. It's the nature of the experience. You don't even put the pieces that are obvious together. It's like, why are you all dressed? Oh, duh, we're going on a ship tonight. What do you think? I'm going to be dressed in clothes while you guys will be walking around naked.
Is that why you got up at 1 o'clock in the morning to put skivvies on?
I did, yes. Yeah. I got up because I had the feeling it's time and I wanted to be dressed for it. But I didn't want to put all my clothes on for it. You know. Underwear is more than enough clothes for that ship.
Yeah.
It's warm.
Mm-hmm. It is warm. That's funny.
Yeah, what's also funny in a sense is the interpretations that we, in the fog, which we call a fog, of things that we see up on the ship that we then bring back, we interpret them kind of sideways sometimes. You know, that's one of the problems with trying to explain things is even something you see, you interpret it a certain way. Like when we got to the ship, words I would use to describe, they bowed down and prostrated themselves in reverence for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And what does that mean to most people? They look at that, someone walks in, and then the worshippers all go prostrate themselves, and it's like submission in the ultimate in a way, you know. Or it's respect, or it's there's like 10 different words that can use. Most of them implying you're in the presence of a power much greater than you.
That can be an interpretation, but it's not really.
Another interpretation could be you're in subservience to something or a power greater than you.
Mm-hmm. That could be another one.
Most of them are greater power than you.
People who do that, yeah.
Yeah. They're not, like you go to meet the Queen of England, you're supposed to like kneel or bow or something, aren't mm-hmm. you? Or if you see the Emperor of Japan or China, you're supposed to like not look at them in the eyes, and you can only shuffle in with your head down or whatever, like that kind of stuff. Mm. It's similar, right? Not similar the experience that was going on with you, but it's a similar shaped experience. In other words, the bodies
it might
are
appear
bowed.
to be the same.
It appears to be the same, and so whatever that is, the tendency for us in the fog is to say it's like that.
Yeah.
But in fact, it was something completely different.
Yes, completely different.
Adoration, maybe. Reverence.
It's almost like a pause in the activities and just allowance to be a different state of awareness for 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah, like in a theta state, meditative state, a different state of being.
Yeah.
The normal one that you're interacting with fog beings, us, we're all foggy.
Yeah.
First we show up to the ship, terrified
and physical body screaming,
violent and fighting, or terrified and withdrawn, and all low frequency responses.
Yeah.
And so when you came up the ship with me, you weren't terrified at all.
No.
And you were, without being, I don't know the word, I could say word just for a word, burdened by the combined light, dark, singularity, I mean myself, bubble of earth, high, dark, low frequency people. I mean, that's going to have an effect on your being, how you feel, how you express it a little bit.
Only if I indulge in it myself. If I don't indulge in it, it doesn't affect me at all.
Well, on the ship, outside that bubble entirely, it's probably was easier and
Refreshing.
freer to come forth.
Well, it was nice. It was refreshing and it was nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Pleasant.
anyone that's had or sat or been around you in an event or in a meditation or physically met you, oftentimes they see what they need to see, but they also have an experience that's not like I just met Ted.
Well, some people do. Some people say,
people
I
just
felt
met Ted?
nothing. It's like I met Ted, yeah.
Not anyone I've ever talked to.
Oh, I've met people who say that, yeah. Yeah, I feel nothing. I see nothing. I don't know why I'm here.
I guess they're masters of separation.
I don't judge them, actually, because I know that their higher self will allow them to have the experience that they need and want at that moment, and it's in accordance to their co-created choices for life. So I don't judge it at all. I don't judge whomever sees the Divine Mother. I don't judge the person who sees nothing at all. I don't judge the person who sees a demon. I don't judge any of them or any of that.
Based on their response, you're able to sometimes get an idea of what they're seeing, like did you have a feeling for what they were experiencing?
Yeah, because they're experts at, the way they communicate experiential telepathy, so I was able to become one with them, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how would you describe the experience they had?
I would describe it as a unification, a joy. It's almost like meeting an old friend that you haven't seen for a very long time. There was a lot of love, a lot of light, a lot of like happiness, happy feeling, like insanely happy.
So in some senses, I would say that the pose resembled something physically seen on Earth, and usually in the cases of a power of like a king or a queen or a supreme leader or a religious figure or a god or something like that, that resembled the same physical appearance, but the gals, or they're not guys or gals, are they?
No.
They don't have a sex.
No.
Not a male-female sex.
No.
The people on the ship were in what could be considered a bliss state or a meditative state, or that naturally their bodies in its most comfortable state would be like that, would look like something else to somebody.
Yeah, it's a communication for sure. And I suspect that position of the body's communication has been hijacked by power over others people to mean something completely and utterly different.
Like sick or flushing.
Yeah, but that position...
But even more different.
Yeah, because that position usually people interpret or they tell you have to do it because you're below me. Yes. Or, right, you know, the king says you're below me, so you have to bow your head now.
And bow and all that.
Or the guru or the priest or the monk or the lama is like, I'm more enlightened than you, so you have to bow before me. Subservient and put your hands together in prayer towards me, whatever. So, you know, that has been hijacked. It's not the real, true feeling or meaning or reasons for doing that action with your body. Remember, I was doing as an example with a friend, and I just happened to be pointing in his direction. And he was overwhelmed with love and projection of authority and everything else. Yeah. And he thought it was the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to his life.
And he started giggling, he couldn't stop.
And he was like, what? Because it was all I, me, and myself and projection.
Right.
Because that wasn't at all. But that was like an example, right? That's a great example of how this can be misinterpreted.
Right.
When you're in separation. When you're in separation.
But
if you're not in separation, it cannot possibly be misinterpreted or seen as anything but that joining in in source energy, the joy, light, love, oneness, or whatever you want to call it.
That's excellent. Excellent information.
Mm-hmm.
It's.
Why did you feel I need to share that particular point of data in our podcast?
Well, it's related to the interpreting what's a high frequency experience on planet in a light dark reality, how to bring in new paradigm, how to interpret what you're seeing, even though you're seeing something and you know what it is, you're actually seeing something and interpreting it as being something that it isn't, most times. So you have to be super aware, expand your awareness, really, really, really pause when you're seeing something to make sure you're actually, seeing and interpreting what you're seeing correctly, right? So another example of this, which also came from Dr. Cohen's thing and also has to do with flushing, was Koch's postulates. You've heard of that?
No.
Koch's postulates are how you determine an infectious agent, for example. You have a particle from a sick person in their body, and you isolate it and purify it so that you only have a vial of that particle. And you take that particle and you give it to another person who inhales it or eats it or somehow gets it in their body, maybe their eye. Not injected, though, because injected, nobody likes...
Nature is not, and it doesn't inject.
I mean, occasionally you get a sliver, maybe you can put on a sliver.
Maybe a mosquito might bite you, inject things right
I
into it.
suppose.
Or a rose bush.
Rose bush.
Yeah.
Well, basically, another person gets that particle in them
Yeah.
through a normal method and gets sick.
Yeah.
And it gets the same sick that the other person had that had the particles to begin with.
That's a postulate.
Right. And that person's fluids, you can also find that particle. Then you've satisfied Koch's postulates. So Koch's postulates was, I think, used to... What was that one shot that we got that made the little dimple and everybody had to look at their
Measles,
dimple?
I think.
Measles? No, was it?
Seems
Remember
so.
the one that makes a little pock on your arm?
Yeah, measles.
Smallpox, some kind of a pox.
Smallpox, yeah. It's pox. Yeah.
Oh, some kind of thing.
Yeah,
Anyway,
pox.
it was Koch's experiment with guinea pigs, apparently, that determined the infectious nature of whatever this was. And so he had guinea pigs that he had put into a pen and mistreated, treated very poorly, poisoned in some way or whatever. And in 3 weeks, they got this pox stuff. And he put another guinea pig in there. And after 3 weeks of mistreating it while it was in the pen with the other one, it also got sick. So the cause of it getting sick, of course, was the other guinea pig.
Right.
And that proves it.
Okay.
But it's like what he saw and his interpretations, right now we will look at that and say, what are you, that's absurd. Nobody would draw that conclusion. We would all draw the conclusion that
You're not looking at
both of the
guinea pigs
got sick because of the way you treated them, not because you
Right.
put one in with a sick one,
Yeah.
right? But at the time, with the level of awareness that existed at the time, maybe, that seemed like a perfectly reasonable conclusion.
Yeah.
And 100, 200 years later, we're still basing our decisions and our choices and our description of what's happening based on that observation 200 years ago.
Okay, so let's roll over the whole victim aggressor shit.
Right?
Okay, of ignoring or, here's stupidity and then we still copying it, whatever's. And let's look at it from the perspective of this is a human collective choice, right, to have certain experiences on the planet at a certain time, including what's happening today. If you had a different postulate that actually identified that mistreating a guinea pig in a little cage is going to make it sick, so take the guinea pig out of that little cage, put it in a nicer environment, right, with friends, because mammals are social. Maybe, I don't know if the guinea pigs are social or
I think
not.
they are.
Might not be. But anyways, and then that postulate would have created a society that treats our whole environmental of sickness and health in a different way. Then the way in which people are choosing to either leave or stay in the high frequency paradigm on Earth or continue with the normal everyday life that they are accustomed to where they have light dark experiences, you wouldn't have been able to make this particular choice that people are doing today, that we can't talk about in the first hour.
Right, well, I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about the interpretation of what you see.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
So
if we had interpreted it differently as a human collective, we wouldn't be able to make choices right now that are like the ones that we're making due to that postulate. A
the mechanism
and B doesn't go to C.
The mechanism for the carrying out the split wouldn't work. Is that what you're saying?
Right. That we're choosing right now.
Okay.
But at the same time, maybe it was plan B, right? Because plan A was that everybody on the planet was going to expand their awareness, ascend in frequency, and everyone on the planet, included all the animals and trees and everything else, definitely all the people, were going to become of a higher frequency and expanded awareness, and then we become universal creatures that can travel the universe. But in 2011, that decision was revoked, and only a section of the population is now going to do that. So, maybe it was plan B in case that happened. Well, that wouldn't have been relevant, and it didn't matter, right? Whatever postulates people did that were wrong, and what you saw wasn't properly interpreted.
Well, in the case of Koch's postulates, for example, they haven't been using them anyway, because viruses are something that they haven't been able to pick them out of people's fluids and then give them to somebody and they got sick. Mm-hmm. So they kind of dropped them anyway, and they made a modified version of Koch's postulates. But the point isn't so much what that was. The point is that so much of our current reality is based on things we saw and misinterpreted. And from that misinterpretation carried on decades, even hundreds of years. Like I was saying before.
What does it matter?
What matters?
What I'm saying is, why is this relevant?
Why does it matter? What is irrelevant?
Yeah.
What is relevant is, and you asked the specific question, why did I ask about this? Because by all appearances, you would interpret the space guy's action as you're more powerful than them, and subservient to you.
I would never think that.
And things like, I'm saying other people.
Oh, but other people were not there.
There were plenty of people there.
They didn't interpret it that way. They understood what was happening.
If we talk about it and everyone listening isn't going to interpret it all the same way. So what I'm saying is that watch your interpretations of the things that you see and be aware that they may not be or mean the things that you are automatically think they mean. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And there's lots of examples of it.
Yes. Yeah.
So here's another example.
Okay.
And maybe you can clear this one up.
Go for it. What's your other example?
A one world government. Good thing or bad thing? Patriotism and nationalism. A good thing or bad thing?
Is that it?
Yeah, sure.
Was there anything else to it?
Well, it's like, we can say things like, Russia's a bad country. And we can say things like New World Order. That'll mean there's only one government can have a fight with itself, so there won't be any war. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think?
About what?
Either one of those things.
There's chicken scratches. I don't really think about them very much. There's just distractions.
Light workers and dark workers.
What about them?
What do you think about that?
About light workers and dark workers?
Yeah.
But can you give me some more context? Because it's like saying strawberry cheese sandwich or meat and potatoes.
Yes, meat and potatoes.
I didn't understand. You have to give it more context.
Meat and potatoes are delicious.
Okay.
So,
I'm glad we cleared that one up.
yeah, it's very easy. Now, when I say nationalism, patriotism, we're all raised, at least in my country, see, it's my country.
Yes.
In my
It's your
country,
yeah.
I was raised to put the flag.
Adore the flag.
And put your hand over your heart. So
Yeah.
it's like solemn vows.
Yes.
And recite.
Which hand?
Right hand over your heart.
On what?
Over the center of your chest.
Center of your chest? Are you sure?
Yes.
Not the left hand of your chest?
Something like that. It's been a while, so.
Okay.
I know analytic overlays will be interpreting this. My analytic overlay says your heart's more like over here, and my memory has over your left breast, things like that.
Yeah.
So I think you put your hand over your left chest.
Okay.
Right hand. And anyway, you recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And you have this vision or this impression of your country as the last bastions of freedom and democracy and all that is right in the world. Mm-hmm. And generally speaking, you care about it as an entity mm-hmm. that you are a part of.
Yes.
By the blessing of God being born there. Mm-hmm. And if you hadn't been born there, you would have been up the creek. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could have been born anywhere else and think how bad it would be. But you got lucky and you won the lottery and you got born here. Mm-hmm. So most countries probably have some form of that mm-hmm. where they're like, oh, thank God I got born here. This is the best place on the planet. Mm-hmm. How do those other people live? Mm-hmm. And then that's patriotism and nationalism, and that's ingrained into you from birth.
Yes.
Mostly.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a group on the planet at the same time who are, they think they're like, they call them things like United Nations or One World Government or Great Reset, that stuff, you know? Mm-hmm. And their plan is that if we get rid of nationalism, we won't have a peace on the planet. Mm. And it sounds logical. So their process is to create, which is where it kind of starts to go sideways, you know.
Okay.
In order to create this, you have to destroy the other.
Right.
And how do you go about destroying the other?
How?
I don't know. I'm asking.
Oh, I thought you knew how they were doing it.
Well, they have many tactics, I'm sure. Some of them are in college and education, and some of them are, you know, wars and attrition and making nations dysfunctional, bankrupting mm-hmm. them, mm-hmm. Putting them in so much debt that they're unable to ever recover from it, and so they're beholden to the one world, one thing, and they mm-hmm. must basically do what they're told, which is the same as not existing anymore because they've basically given up their sovereignty in a sense.
Yeah.
So basically all of the nations have to give up their sovereignty to another entity, which they have decided the best way to go about is by putting the world in debt to themselves, mm-hmm. in debt to them, things like that. That's some of the process. Mm-hmm. But on the surface, when you look at it, you say, hey, no more wars, that'd be great. We got to have a great big war to have no more wars? Hey, I've heard that story before. Didn't work the first 2 times.
Yeah.
How's it going to work the next few times? Mm-hmm. So it puts you in a catch-22 position. And I agree that it might be chicken scratchy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you feel, how am I supposed to respond to this contradiction? It's a contradiction that creates tension, actually. Mm-hmm. Because you actually want your nationalism and your country to represent a new paradigm, a light of truth, justice, and fairness, and all those kind of things. As mm-hmm. light workers, that's what we want. And you don't believe probably the other form of government where there's only one in control of everybody. It doesn't actually feel like that's probably the right answer either, right? Mm-hmm. Because, well, in the conspiracy world or in the world that truthers are in and things like that, they know the biggest enemy is one world government. That's like the big bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
So neither one of them is okay.
Exactly. That's right.
So what do? That's the question. What do you align yourself with?
You don't. You don't align with either of them, or any type of energy that's divisive.
You don't align with any energy that's divisive or separative.
Mm-hmm. But you allow them to have their game. I mean, that's their game. Every now and then you can look at it if it's impinging in your life and say, not over here. I'm not playing that game. Go away.
Good plan. So occasionally you walk around the grocery store, or the ice dock, or the boat, or you go to a family dinner, or you go to a place where you mingle with people whose frequencies are different.
Mm-hmm.
I guess light, dark. Their frequencies are, and their desire for experience is, normal, basically what everybody's basically been doing for a while.
Right.
Then you have conversations, and some of the conversations are about things like this, nationalism, and this country's bad and that country's good, and we need one, we need this, we need that. And you kind of know where the trouble spots are in the conversation, but how do you have that conversation? It's like,
how many times do I find myself in that situation?
Don't know.
None. As a person who stays sober during social meetings, and as a person who has a broad spectrum of tools and information at your disposal to keep your frequency high and to embody the new paradigm, you're capable and able to change the dynamic and the frequency of any type of social conversation to be a high frequency one. And if there's too many drunks in the room, actually it doesn't really matter what you talk about, because they probably won't remember a thing. So, if you want to hang out with them, that's fine. If you don't want to hang out with them, you can leave. It doesn't really matter. If you were dreaming, let's say you were dreaming, okay?
Yep.
And there was a room full of people in your dream, and they were all having an argument about something. Would you bother to join the argument if you knew you were dreaming?
Well, I don't think I've encountered any arguments in my dreams.
Right.
It's a little bit like what you just said. It's like, I don't have that experience, so
Exactly.
I really can't comment on it too much.
Exactly. Right. But anybody here can relate to the example.
Yeah.
Right? If you're dreaming and you're dreaming and there's something going on, you're not going to give it much attention because, it's just a dream.
Yep.
And quite honestly, if you're going to, get emotional or whatever, you really have to watch your frequency and not indulge and not get sucked into those type of situations, because it's really not relevant to you, quite honestly. And you can always find, and your allies and your good counsel, you can always find a way to be okay, no matter where you are. And I can say it with a good authority, as I was a war child. So
Yes, you were. You've been through things that are going on to other people right now.
Yeah.
Multiples of times.
Multiples of times.
So, yeah, it's intended, obviously, to be engaging. It's intended to be good and attractive and interesting, to pick side, pick a who's the good, who's the bad. There's the light workers, or what are the ones that the white hats and this and that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So what are you going to tell me?
It's just a little story about how even if you're a child, you can transform things and turn them around. Or even interpret it differently, right? Interpret things very differently.
Totally, yeah.
So there was a situation when I was a kid. We were in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, with my mom and some other people. And unfortunately, we had come from Chile to escape the right-wing fascist dictatorship there that had attacked my family, put them into concentration camps and tortured them, stuff like that. And then there was a right-wing fascist dictatorship in Argentina, so we were in deep trouble, you know.
Yeah, I'll say.
Yeah, so it wasn't good, and there was a whole orchestration of a very strange situation. My mom took us, my brother, sister, and I to the airport. And she gave us instructions, and I can't remember what on earth we were doing there. But she gave us some instructions, and then she left with these people. They left, right? And my sister interpreted the whole thing, and the way she recalls it is my mom couldn't handle us, she couldn't feed us, so she abandoned us at the airport, knowing that the authorities would take us, and then we would be put in some sort of home where we would be fed. So in her interpretation, our mother abandoned us.
Right.
Right? That was her interpretation. I remember it was something else, but maybe she was right. She was older than me, a lot older than me, right? So my brother, sister, and I were left in this car park in the airport by ourselves. I was 7.5, 8 years old. And my brother, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 13. My sister, 16, 17, I don't know, something like that. Maybe everybody was younger, actually. I think everybody was actually younger. I think my sister was 14.
Okay.
So my brother would have been...
10-ish.
No, they were very close in age. Maybe 13, maybe 12, something like that. And I must have been 7 or 8. We're in this airport. So my sister said, okay, we're in trouble. And what do we want to do? Well, we want to go home, right? That's what we'd like to go. We want to go home back to our mother.
Okay, let's do that.
Let's do that. Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, we're children. We're kind of pretty children. You know, we have to be careful.
Let's get a ride.
Yeah. No. What we're going to do is we're going to use the authorities to take us home.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to the police, the airport police, and we're going to cry and cry and cry, and we're going to tell them that we lost our mommy, we can't find her. And then we'll see what happens, and if they play along, then they're going to drive us home, which was about 2 hours away in a different town, the city. Or they're going to get hold of her somehow. Something's going to happen, but we're going to get home. Okay.
Good plan.
Good plan. So who's the best crier in the group?
I suppose you were.
Yes, I was excellent. So, anyways, we got there and I started crying my little eyes out, actually really big eyes out, and did all the puppy eyes on the planet, and I was desperately wanting my mummy, and we were lost, because one of the things my sister said was, if we tell them that our mom abandoned us, they will never take us back to her, and she's going to end up in jail. So we can't say that, okay? We got lost. And we can't find her. Somehow. I can't remember the whole story. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I cried and cried and cried. These people trying to calm us down. And eventually, at the end of the day, at around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, we were home. And, you know, I don't know what happened with my mom or whatever. So what story she had to tell, you know.
I'm sure she had to come up with something.
She must have come up with something, but they left us there, right? So, in a way, even if you're a tiny little child or a group of tiny little children, if you're not in agreement with what's happening around you, and you don't actually fall for the victim aggressor, because, Jesus, we were really beautiful kids. Mm-hmm. And there's 1,000 billion aggressors out there, predators, right?
Probably, yeah.
And if we'd been running one of those programs, we would have ended up, God knows where.
Child slaves.
Child slaves somewhere. So, we didn't. We ended up home that night. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, anybody who says, you know, that children are total victims and they can't have any power over their environment or whatever, so I can show you with my personal experiences, that is not true. Even when you're a child, you can actually figure things out to have a positive what the experience you want to have, right? And the same thing that I've told before, when I was in school, there was a big depression. There was no work. The unemployment levels were huge. And yes, I did try to get work when I came out of school, and nobody would give me a job. So what did I do? At 17, I started my own company. And I looked at where's the opportunities here. What kind of organizations are growing? The governmental organizations were growing to take care of all the unemployed and all the minorities. That's where I got my customers for my company.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I catered to those people. Literally, it was a catering company. So at 17, still a child, I created a job for myself and for 2 other families. Or more, actually. I can't remember how many people I had employed. But that's just an example.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That even if a child can do these things, or a group of children can do these things, adults most certainly can figure it out. Especially if they have good allies in life. And if they don't have a good allies, and if you're still subscribed to the lone wolf, you can still figure it out. You can still do it. Tap into it. But whatever you do, don't give your power away. Don't think that things are going to just be fixed because you have alien friends or you get taken into ships or whatever. Your responsibility is here. Their responsibility is out there. Right? They can't come in here and, save you or whatever, right? They can't do that. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox now.
I was just listening. I heard strange chicken noises out there.
Yeah, I think we need to go and rescue a chicken.
Yeah.
I can hear a chicken is in trouble out there.
Alrighty. I think we've basically covered everything we want to cover anyway.
I think so. Do you feel complete, honey? Well, the second hour, notwithstanding.
Second hour, yeah. I think the second hour we're going to be talking about our I-wise and we-wise.
Yes, our wise and we wise.
I-wise and we-wise. And if you don't know what they are, you should probably get onto the second hour.
Yeah.
Because it's extremely relevant.
It is. And interesting, too.
And
It
related.
can transform your life, too.
And
Very
transformative. Because nothing beats a strong why.
Yeah.
Okay. Love you, honey.
Love you, darling.